we'll have a small group activity, and that will be about challenging implicit expectations. Then we'll have a discussion on the politics of difference. And then I don't know if we will have time for the unpacking privileges. I'm giving the same thing in the afternoon, so at that time we'll have more time. And then, but I want to do a little bit of discussion on skills and strategies for teachers, just because I think we need to know how to deal with equity, what kind of methodologies we can use in the classroom, the strategies. So let's start with the small group activity. This is not working. Where is the heel left?
You know, I can help you with clicking there. So, yeah, it's fine.
Is it? This is not working. Do you all have pieces of paper?
Yes.
Okay. So individually, if you take out a piece of paper and divide it in half, and label one side good students and one side, thank you. Label one side good student, the other side bad student. Yeah. And take 5 minutes, one side good student, one side bad student, and take 5 minutes to draw what comes to your mind when you think of these labels. Who's a good student? Who's a bad student? Just draw something. Try to include as much detail as possible about the surroundings of the student. Not just the student, but the student in the classroom. Okay, I think that's enough time. Now get into two pairs and talk about compare your drawings, and we'll make a list of the common characteristics that you two had, and that we all had. So you compared? Okay, we won't listen to it yet. We do the next thing, which is take a few minutes to discuss what you did not draw. Consider what is visible and what is not. Sorry about what is not. What did you imply or assume by failing to draw it? In other words, is that clear? No?
Yeah, we already did that because when we shared the project,
what you did not draw, you've already done that? Oh, okay, that's good. Now, whether intentionally or not, did you draw all male students? How many people drew male students?
For the bad students, I did draw a male.
With no gender, let's make her male students.
Don't worry about that.
I drew her a ribbon.
Because it was easier to draw male students with no hair than put hair on males.
Okay.
That was for me.
And students from, you're thinking of students from a particular class background or a linguistic background and physically able students.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there anyone here who did not have a physically able student? So what we're doing here is we're looking at students who are all the same as us.
Yes.
And usually boys. Few girls. Very few. Okay. So we always assume something about students, right? And we're not conscious of it. Not that we do it purposely. We are not conscious of it. There's a lot of work done in North America looking at who the teacher asks questions to. And they're not doing it purposely, but they always shut up the female student. If somebody female is asking a question, she says, the teacher says, yes, okay. And then she goes to the boys and a boy and says, okay, so what did you want to say? And she'll hear him, you know. So not that she's doing it purposely, but she feels that he's going to talk more or talk better or say the answer better. But we are not aware of what we do because they have become so normalized. You know what I mean by normalized? They've become normal in society because we are not aware of our assumptions. Okay, so what do our assumptions say about our expectations and how can we challenge our biases? That's the important thing. How can we challenge our biases? First of all, we don't know that we have these biases. And second thing is, how can we challenge these biases? That's the most important thing about thinking that about our expectations. Now, what teacher expects is what student does. We know that, right? The student is always striving to fulfill teacher's expectations. So if your expectation is low, the student will do so much and no more. If your expectation is high, the student will try to achieve higher. So your expectations influence the life of the student and ultimately the life chances of the student. What that child will become. Of course, the parents have a lot to do with it, but the teacher has tremendous influence, making or breaking the student. So that's a very, very important thing. So let's see what are some of the common characteristics that you had. Starting with you. About a good student.
Good student, it's attentive student.
Attentive, yeah.
And students who care, they go with their colleagues to schools and they care about their colleagues. And,
Okay.
yeah, so that's amazing.
And a good student? Same? Same?
Like maybe we added organized, uses polite language, cooperative, attentive, ready to listen.
Okay.
Like teamwork support.
Teamwork.
Teamwork supports his peers. And,
Cooperation.
yeah.
Cooperation.
We would probably have interested, engaged.
Engaged.
Wants to know, curious.
Very good.
I have the girl who listens. They do their homework and they know how to work in groups. They're good.
Good team workers.
Teamwork, yeah.
And at the back?
I couldn't hear all of them, but we have, I think one of the things we have is caring. That we collaborate and care for the students around them.
Oh, okay. Very good. What about bad students?
He's a bad listener, and
Doesn't listen.
he doesn't listen, and he doesn't get engaged or participates in the classroom or in activities.
Okay. So she's a bad student.
He or she.
So she's a bad student because she doesn't listen.
We had students not collaborating in group work. Actually, I drew boys playing football in the classroom.
Oh, disrupting their group. And no responsibility for group action.
No.
And that's very important. When you have group projects, which we have a lot of these days, if one person doesn't do it, then the group action is not good. I mean, the group cohesiveness loses its cohesiveness when one or two students shirk their responsibility. That's very important.
It was hard really to think of bad students or to draw bad students, but directly I thought of a bully in school. The bully guy student who bullies others.
Bullies. Yeah, bullying is very important these days. That's a whole workshop on bullying. But bullying is, I think that's a very, very important point. Very important point. Yeah?
Well,
The same thing?
I can add to, you said, besides, they are messy, disorganized, they use bad words, bad language, unwilling to start or stop a bad behavior.
Yeah. And at the back?
Science classroom.
Doesn't follow instructions, doesn't pay attention to safety. I'm a science teacher. And can be very rude, talks back.
You didn't have nothing about bad students?
What has already been said?
Oh, okay. Has anybody seen this? It's a film, but it's a documentary film called Entre les Murs. No. You've seen it.
What's it called?
It's called Entre les Murs. It's a very interesting. Can you talk about it a little bit?
It is a French movie set in a middle school, I believe.
Yeah.
In socioeconomically underprivileged suburban Paris in the background, and about all of the behavioral challenges that the teacher faces because the students have very difficult
Yeah.
and bring that into the classroom.
I think that film is a very good film to show becoming teachers or even teachers how to deal with some of the things, how some of the conflicts, and they're more or less the same all over the world. How when the student talks back, why does the student talk back? What is the reason? What's happening in his or her family? What is happening in his mind? And now I'm doing some work on radicalization and education. And the more I look into this thing, the more I feel that we have to do something about students who feel left out. If they're talking back, there's a reason, always. And then in that film, Entre les Murs, they show how this teacher talks to the student and finds out more and is able to kind of change the attitude. But definitely a lot of the students who become radicalized are people who are marginalized, disaffected, something's happened at home, tragedy at home, nobody to talk to, finding themselves. They need to find themselves. They need to find a meaning in life. So many times bad students are those students who don't have a meaning in life, you know. Sometimes they're just, it could be from a socio-economically backward, lower group, but it could be from a very affluent group. And what we found is that, especially in North America and European countries, very, very privileged students are so bored with their lives because they have everything. So they're thinking of some excitement in life. So they've suddenly taken the Quran, and they've become Muslims. And they, do you know about the Quran for Dummies? They buy that book, go onto the plane, and they're going to Syria. I mean, they know nothing about Islam, nothing. It's the Quran for Dummies or Islam for Dummies, there are two books. So they will take that, they have no knowledge at all, and they're going, because they're looking for some excitement. They're too bored with their lives, they have everything. So there are, both extremes are there. So we have to look at the student who is good, but quiet, too quiet, keeps to herself. You know, sometimes some of the characteristics you said, she listens, she does her homework and all that. But is it very normal for a person to be that good all the time? Sometimes you have to question that too, right? Because what is she thinking? Now, the recent one in the incident in San Bernardino. Yeah. Now, this woman was not a student, but she was just had been a student, just finished, and she was a housewife and nothing else, no other signs, but something was brimming in her all the time. So one has to look at that. Okay, so because of lack of time, otherwise we could talk a little more. The politics of difference. Do you have any questions on this? What does difference mean to you?
Abilities, different
abilities,
background,
socioeconomic background, class,
or ethnic background.
Ethnic background.
Physical.
Sorry?
Physically different.
Physically different.
How to be unique.
Sorry?
How to be unique.
How to be unique. In what way?
When you're different, you have your own characteristics or
In terms of looks or
everything, personality.
personality.
The way you look, maybe.
Okay.
The way you behave, the way you dress.
The way you behave. What are some of the markers of difference? Markers of difference.
Color of skin. Maybe.
Color of skin.
Language.
First language.
Religion.
Religion, yeah. Gender. You said physical ability. Mental ability. Disability, mental. We've talked about gender. Age is another one, because now when in your classrooms, are you all teachers?
But We all want to be teachers, so we can identify.
Okay. So what in your classrooms do you think would make a child different?
His behaviors.
His behavior?
Ability.
Ability? Okay.
Or physical abilities.
Physical ability, mental ability. What else?
Not so much the gender.
No?
No, we don't. No.
I mean, we do, but we're biased, as she said at the beginning. I used to like boys more than girls. So we are biased.
The girls are cute, they're sweet. Yeah, they're sweet. Yeah.
But
They like your hair.
when you're in a classroom, you want to give equality is you want to be equal to everyone, right? Like we are born with equal rights.
Yes.
We are born with equal rights. But do you treat everyone the same?
No.
Because treating everybody the same would be not right, because not everybody is the same. So sameness is not equality.
There's justice and there's equality.
Okay, so that's a very important point. Justice. Now, how are you going to give justice in the class?
Yeah. Giving equal opportunities to all students.
And how will you give equal opportunities if they're not equal? Yeah?
Give the weak one two opportunities.
You have the hand up?
You have to look at like equity, meaning some students.
Equity.
Yeah, some students might have higher cognitive abilities than others. So it might mean that for the ones that are less able, you might be giving them more one-on-one support. So you can't treat everybody equally the same.
No. Because that would not be equal. So now I'm coming to the part of difference. So when you see students as different, do you say that I don't see the difference in them? I treat them all with equity. In other words, difference blind. Are you difference blind?
But what do you mean by difference? Is it that?
Difference is that somebody's brown, somebody's black, somebody's white.
About ability and difference.
And ability, or physical ability, mental ability, religion. So these are all markers of difference because we base our assumptions on them. Although they're not the same level, but we try to make them, we have assumptions. Now, difference is a very important word because it's a comparative word. You cannot be different if there is no norm. So difference is different from something. So it's a comparative word. Secondly, difference is always changing. You're different today, you're not different tomorrow because your abilities change, your characteristics change, the surroundings change. Like you're different if you're white in Africa. But if you're white in North America, you're not that different. So it depends on the context also. That's important. Now, difference becomes important when we attribute qualities to it. Now, for example, gender is the social construction of the attributes we give to males and females, right? That's the difference between sex and gender. There's a difference between sex and gender. So sex is the biological thing, gender is the sociological attributes that we give to the genders. So we are constructing difference. In other words, we are constructing the meaning of difference. So when there is a difference in the classroom between students, among students, we are saying in our own minds, we're not even thinking about it, but we are immediately thinking that these people, this child is going to be good in math because he's Chinese. Or this boy is going to be good in basketball because he's tall and he's black. We've got those fixed notions and we have to get rid of them because maybe that tall black boy is a good musician or good at math. We don't know. But we've attributed certain characteristics to them. And we've constructed difference. So it's comparative and it's constructed. And we have our attitudes regarding those characteristics. Now, these are very subtle things. They're not concrete. They're kind of soft skills that we must develop. But these soft skills are very important skills because we want our students to develop certain values. And one of them is to respect difference, to respect diversity, not just tolerate. Before they used to use the word tolerate, and I hate the word tolerate, because it means that I just tolerate someone. I can just accept that person. That's not a good word. But to tolerate is to just put up with. But you need to do more than that. You need to respect. And you need to accept difference. Not everybody has to be the same. I'll give you again an example in North America, that when first students came to Canada, for example, the model of difference was that if you are different, you should become like the French part of Canada or the English part of Canada. You have to become like that. You have to assimilate in order to become like, you have to become like that in order to compete. Now they don't say that anymore because you cannot give up everything and become that. They tried that with the native children and it didn't work. So now everybody is being told or being encouraged to be who you are and have your own identities. So that if you have strong identities, you'll be happy people, happier people. Why are we doing all this? Because we want a peaceful society. Ultimately, we want a critical citizen in order that we have peace in society. And because of that, we want critical literacy, media literacy in our students, no matter who they are, how different they are. And we want to accept them because they have the right to be different. They have rights, equal rights as different people, so they have the right to be different. So, is it an advantage or disadvantage to be considered different?
It depends how you look at it.
Positively different.
Yeah.
I mean, in relation to the one.
There are a lot of kids who first, when they come in to a country, move to another society, they don't want to be different.
Yes, they want to.
They want to be like the other kids. They don't want to be different. There are other kids who come in and say, I'm not like you, I like to be different. So it depends, as you said, because some people find it an advantage to be different. You're unique, people like that, but most of the time they want to be the same. They want to be like others, they want to dress like others. For example, now you'll see everybody all over the world, even in the remotest villages in Asia and Africa, they're wearing jeans. It's become a uniform. Why? Because they don't want to be that different. They want to all be looking alike, same kinds of clothing. On a daily basis, how would a student experience being seen as different by the teacher, by the peers? How would a student experience? Now here we're talking about privileges. The majority group have a lot of privileges, and they don't even know that they have those privileges. In other words, has anybody read Peggy McIntosh's White Privilege? There's a very interesting article. It's called White Privilege, Carrying the Invisible Knapsack. Carrying the invisible knapsack. That means on your back, a knapsack, it's invisible. And what does she talk about? She lists about 32 privileges that white males have that others don't have in North American society. And they don't even know that they have these privileges.
Like what?
Like, I'm standing in line and I know that she's going to serve me well when my turn comes, but the next person who's behind me is a woman and from a different ethnic group, and she's not sure that this person is going to serve her the way she's going to serve. He's taking it for granted. She's not. She's questioning. She's uncertain. I mean, she has 32 of those in her list that he takes for granted. And the people are not looking at him. People are not questioning him. Why have you come? That kind of thing. So these kinds of things, they take for granted. And these are things that on a daily basis, we don't, I teach a class on multiculturalism to the first year teachers. The teachers these people are going to be teachers. This first year. And the first thing I do is give them Peggy McIntosh's article. And I cannot tell you the impact it has on them. They cannot believe that they have all these privileges. They said they never thought of it. I never thought of it as a privilege, But we have, just think about yourself and think about a person who's different, who's new to your country. And what are the privileges that they don't have? I mean, it'll take time, but if you think about it, you get up in the morning and you think that you'll do certain things which other people don't take as granted, take for granted. So if you change places with those people, only then will you know. And this is where we develop empathy. Not only sympathy for other people, but empathy, knowing how the other person feels. That is why role playing is so important in class. You make your students go and become someone else. and then see how they feel. Now, unpacking the privileges, I talked to you about a little bit about that. I'm not going to do this because we won't have time. I'm just going to go through this quickly. Fostering empathy. Putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. What kind of ideas can you give me about empathy? Can you give me examples? How do you develop empathy in your students? You know, values you can't teach. You can only create the conditions.
Sympathy and empathy. I was trying to look it up. How we differentiate between empathy and sympathy?
Sympathy is I feel very sorry for that person. Empathy is I feel for myself. What would it be for me if I did that? You know, it's...
We're discussing community service action.
I think empathy, this is the third ability when raising up emotional intelligence in our students.
Yes.
So I cannot reach that part if I'm not aware in myself.
Exactly.
Yes, they have to get to be aware that they are this and they understand it, so that the third thing, they put themselves in the other's place, so they know that the exact feeling.
Yes, exactly. That's what empathy is.
I've thought about community and service actions, which our school really implements to take students either to help in certain organizations for unprivileged either children or adults, and that's how they feel with them, either going to elderly homes, nursing homes, or going to orphanages, or certain hospitals.
Doing work with them.
Cancer patients.
There's two ways I look at, promoting empathy in the classroom. One of it involves looking at different perspectives.
Yeah.
Maybe doing some sort of a role play with that. And the other one is just practicing active listening and just acknowledging how somebody is feeling. Is another way. That's something that's very hard with our students, because just to listen to what somebody else is saying, and to read the body language, listen to the words, and then going back and acknowledging what that was said.
That's very important. Acknowledging what somebody else said, no matter who it is very important, and especially in the classroom. You don't shut up a student just because that student is saying something. Even if that student is rude, you want to hear that person out. And that person will feel that I was rude, but he's giving me the respect of hearing me. That person will feel that. This feeling is empathy. The feeling that you have. I feel sorry for someone, that's one thing. But the feeling that you develop inside you,
And just to add about the sympathy and empathy, the sympathy, you're always trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't fix it, and sometimes you shouldn't fix it. Whereas empathy, it just, I'm sorry to hear you feel that way. And that's all you have to be. It's about being present and just being mindful of how they feel. You're not sitting there and trying to come up with solutions.
I think I disagree. It's the other way. Sympathy, I feel with you, I'm sorry for you, but the empathy, I understand you, and I can give you solutions because I understand you.
There's point. Because if you're always going to try to give them solutions, they're never ever going to make proper decision making. And sometimes you have to have them come up with a solution.
No, it's not giving solutions. I understand you.
Yeah,
I know what you feel.
Empathy is. But sympathy is like, oh my.
I'm sorry for
Oh, we're not going to do that again. You're not going to go to that party because that.
Yeah.
That's sympathy. And sympathy, at the end can be that, the kid becomes too dependent and is no longer building that confidence.
Yes, this is I agree. Yeah.
Good, I'm glad you solved it.
But we had a fight.
No, it's important that, you each understand each other than me butting in there. Okay. Do you think it is fair for some students to have opportunities and others not to? Of course, it's not fair. So what will you do about that?
Give equal opportunity.
How?
Depending on their differences, you can judge, like to give this person 2 opportunities and the other maybe just 1.
The opportunities are different. Why?
Because we're dealing with different personalities, different backgrounds,
Different
knowledge.
intelligences, different learning styles.
Because when we talked of differences, we talked of markers of difference. One was characteristics, like physical differences, mental differences, mostly so those are the markers of difference, physical characteristics. Then there is positionality, is very important. Where is your position geographically? Where were you born? Where do you live? Which family or which class have you been born into? These are going to make big differences. And you have not much control over where you were born. I mean, you were born there. You can change. That's why difference is always in a state of flux. Because like identity, it changes all the time. Because you can be born somewhere, but you can end up somewhere else. Except in 1 or 2 cases. Like the caste system, you can't do that. But in the class system, you certainly can. You can be born. But it used to be much more difficult to do that before. You could not change your class. It's not that easy even now, but now there is an awareness of human rights. And because of that, we know that it's possible for people with education, with globalization, the opportunity to make money, that people change their class quite often, class status. So these things, these opportunities, sometimes, so here we are talking about the opportunity of your positionality. That you may come from a family where you never see a book, but another child comes from a family where there are always books, where they're always discussing about literature and art and politics. And then there's this other student who comes from a family where they don't have a single book, they never even discuss things at dinner, they maybe not even have meals together, each one having their own thing, and those things are important.
Yeah, can I
Yeah.
share something? Like many of our students in private schools, they come to the Detsi, being in the Detsi, I was thinking. In some remote areas, they don't know what the Dead Sea is. They never saw the Dead Sea ever.
Yeah.
So, you have both, as you said, and when we give an example or when we train, we talk about the Dead Sea and we tell the teachers, talk about the Dead Sea. But many of the students haven't been to the Dead Sea ever.
Exactly.
So, it's very similar to what you said.
So what we want to do then is make up for that. Some people, those who already have, can also participate, but either we take them there, or nowadays we have the opportunity of having videos and films and in the internet. The internet is a wonderful, wonderful resource, and they should learn how to look at the internet. But the internet is both a blessing and a curse, because they can get a lot of bad things in the internet. And media literacy is one of the things that we have to have students learn. Critical media literacy. Critical media literacy is very, very important. We don't put much emphasis on that, simply because we tell them to look up the internet. You hope that they're looking up the right things, but you don't know. You don't know. So how you do that is another, of course, workshop, but it's a very important thing that we should have for teachers sessions on critical media literacy. And critical literacy when they read the newspaper. But of course they're getting much worse stuff, not from the newspaper, but from the internet. So critical media literacy is very important. But we can make up, to a certain extent, in April, May, I start seeing school buses going to museums all the time. Why? Because they're taking these kids to museums, those kids who didn't have the chance to go to a museum. So they're taking them all the time. They're taking them to libraries, they're taking them to science centers. And these are very, very important. And because a lot of students don't have the opportunity to do this. Those who have had the opportunity, it's good, but they should also come, because they must learn that, how to look at it anew. So it's important.
And I think we should teach our students too.
Sorry?
I mean, the students themselves should have empathy between not just teachers, students.
Exactly. Yeah. If these opportunities exist every day, they represent privileges. We may or may not have earned. Because we were born into it, we may not have earned it. So how can teachers treat their students fairly? That's the important question here. Now, since I have a meeting until 11:30, and some of you also have, we are going to quickly finish this by telling you that there are skills and strategies which I'm going to discuss very fast. And here, this is just a cartoon to show you, is it fair? Everyone gets an equal amount. Is it fair?
No, this is justice.
This is justice. We want to emphasize. And this is evaluation. Evaluation. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree.
Yeah, I love this one.
The elephant particularly has to climb that tree.
And the fish.
And the fish. What happens if the game board has only round holes? Now we all know this, but I just wanted to make it a little graphic. Should we change the shape of the pegs or fit them in? Or should we make space for them in the board? Children are different. Some are square, some are round, some are triangular. We have to make space for them. We are not going to change them to fit into the one hole. Now, teaching is not an isolated act detached from social obligations. We're doing this because the classroom is a microcosm of society. Teachers must connect the knowledge to their lives, to the students' lives. Otherwise, it's all up there. It's all up there. and it means nothing to them. It goes in through one ear, out through the other. But if they're connected to their lives, they know that it is meaningful. And then they develop conceptual schemes. Time up. And not merely accumulate information. So we take the concepts and social issues from the local to the world, because the local is very important, because you connect it to their lives. But connect it to the world now, because nowadays we know that we are in an interconnected world. We cannot live in isolation. And we must remember that with our children. They must be ready for...
Excuse me, but we will be going out for a coffee break now, because the time is better, because the Queen is going to come.
Yes, I'm finishing. 1 second.
Doctor, we need you to prepare for her just.
Yes. Yeah, oh yeah. I'm going. I just wanted to tell you that I'm going to put this thing up in their site. I'll put it up in their site, okay? So we have to go, because the Queen is coming. Now, these essential skills are in chapter 6 of my book that you saw just now here. And if any of you want these skills, I'm going to give a copy of that chapter to the Queen Rania Teacher Academy. I don't know who was here just now? Hala.
You could give it to any of us. We'll QRT.
If I give it to Hala, you give her the Hala. Yes. I'll give it to Hala, and you ask her for it, and she'll give it to you. Okay? So I better end here, because we have to go. Sorry about that. I'm sorry that I was late. I really got caught up.
Thank you.
Thank you.